All right, so you've got an assignment to do for this first week of the ecosystems unit. And in this assignment, you're going to have to be using the Explore Learning Gizmo. So in the previous section, I asked you to log in and join my class on Explore Learning Gizmos. So if you've successfully done that, then this is what the page for my class should look like. Science 9, Mr. Tang, and you see a bunch of ecosystems related simulations. So the one that we're going to be using for the assignment is coral reefs. So you can click on coral reefs 1 and then it'll load up for you. Okay, so then you just, this is a simulation of a coral reef ecosystem, and you can click on the various species here. So I'll click on this guy, and it says queen angelfish, and it just tells you some information about the queen angelfish, including what it feeds on and what it gets eaten by. You'll need to get that information to build your food web. So you're going to have to spend some time clicking on all of the organisms until you get the information for each one that's listed on the assignment. You can look at the ocean floor, and you'll have to click on some of these as well. The green stuff here is algae. Okay, so you can click on that and find out information about the algae. The orange brownish thing here is sponges. That's part of the assignment too. Okay, and there's corals as well. All right, so that's how you find the information for each organism that you'll need for the food web. And then it's also going to ask you to do some simulations as to what might happen over time if you change some conditions in the ocean. So on the right here, right now it says ocean conditions. So you can change the storm severity, the ocean temperature, or the ocean pH. The assignment will ask you to change one of those. This is a drop-down menu for ocean conditions here. You can change the thing that you're changing. So you can click land use, and then you can change how much logging the humans are doing, how much sewage they're putting in, or how much sewage they're using, and the agriculture level. Okay, so that might affect the ecosystem. And then there's fishing. Okay, so the amount of fishing humans are doing is going to affect the ecosystem. You can add a disease in there. There's 3 diseases you can choose from and see how they're going to affect the ecosystem. And finally, invasive species. Okay, it says invasive species can disrupt ecosystems because they have no natural predators. So an invasive species is a species that is not normally in the ecosystem, but somehow it got in there. Maybe when humans, they sail boats all over the place, and maybe some of the fish got into the ballast water in one of the boats, and then the boat came here and then it unloaded it. So maybe the species got introduced to this ecosystem, and that's going to affect the species that are already there. So there's 2 invasive species to choose from. The assignment will ask you to see what happens when you add one of them in. So I'm going to go back to the ocean conditions. And first of all, I'm not going to touch anything. I want to show you what happens when I don't touch anything at all. What you can do is click Advanced Year, and then there's a counter here that gives you the year number. So I'll click it 20 times, and that'll take me to year 20. And as I click it, I'm watching this picture to see if there's any noticeable changes. And there should not be any because I didn't touch any of the conditions. All right, so the default conditions are the healthy ones for the ecosystem. If I go over to data, so the tabs at the top here, this is the coral reef tab. It shows you the picture. And then this is the data tab. It gives you a graph that shows you the population or the percentage of normal population for various species, and they're color coded here. Right now it's only showing these 4 that I've checked off. I'm actually going to check off the first 10 of them. Okay, so now I've got the population of 10 species graphed, and they're pretty stable. Okay, this is 100, meaning 100% of the normal population. And after 20 years, they're all pretty close to the normal population. That's because I've left the conditions under the ideal conditions. I did not check the last 2 boxes because these 2 were the invasive species that I was talking about. So they're not supposed to be in the ecosystem anyway. All right, so then if I want to restart, what I'll do is I'll click restart. Having trouble clicking that actually. Let's see. Okay, click restart. So it'll go back to 0. I'll get my picture back up. Now I'm gonna change a condition. I'm gonna change the storm severity. So let's say that for whatever reason, climate change, I guess, the storms are a lot more severe than normal in this ecosystem. So I'll put it up to 60%. Okay, normally it's 20%, but I'm putting it up to 60%. Let's see how this affects things. So I've hit restart already, so my year is back to 0. I'm going to click advanced year. I'll do it for 20 years. And I'm going to observe what's happening. And over time, it does look like my fish population may be going down a bit. And it looks like the ocean floor is losing some of the coral there. There used to be a lot more coral from when it started. Okay, so there's 20 years. And now I made note of some visual changes. Now I'm going to click my data tab. And I see that, okay, some of the populations changed quite a bit. The red line dropped a lot. Okay, so the red line, I go down to my color-coded species down here. That would be the staghorn coral. So yeah, as I noticed visually, one of the corals dropped quite a bit. And then the next 2 species that seem to drop quite a lot are these 2. So this one is the gray line, the boulder star coral dropped as well, and another one that dropped quite a bit was this purple line, so the queen angelfish. So those are the 3 that dropped the most. I can double check that by unclicking all the other ones because there's so many lines here I could get confused. Yeah, so those were the 3 that dropped the most. Did anything go up? Well, the green one went up. The green one is algae. Okay, the green one is algae. So that went up. Everything else, it seemed, is under 100% right now. Everything else is under 100%. So why did the algae go up? Well, what's different between algae and the rest of these things? Well, algae is the only plant. Algae is the only plant in this whole list. So a lot of the fishes eat the plant. So if the fish's population are going down, then there's less fish eating the plants. So the plant population actually went up due to the increased storm severity. So that's basically what you're asked to do with a simulation. You're asked to change one of the conditions, advance it for 20 years, and keep track of what changes happen. After each simulation, you always want to click return to original settings and restart to start it back over. Okay, because we only want to change one condition at a time to see how it affects the ecosystem. So always hit restart and return to original settings before each next simulation. Okay, so I'd like you to open the Google Doc, read through the assignment. It may take a bit of time to do all the sections, but I look forward to seeing your submissions.